Hello and welcome to the Royal Rumble 2020 predictions. This is obviously part of the Sports Corner. If you haven't heard of us, what are you doing? What are you playing at? Obviously, we are now a Sports Corner. If you used to know us, we used to be the Top Corner. We're now the Sports Corner, producing many sports. Mondays, Team of the Week predictions, so we've got gaming. Tuesday, we will have our own wrestling podcast. Obviously, if you're watching the predictions, you must be here for the wrestling. So on every Tuesday, we will have our wrestling podcast with me, Rowan, Kieren and Kieran D, famously from the Top Corner podcast, on a Wednesday, and someone new we'd introduced called Simon, who is a big wrestling fan. So we brought him along for our wrestling podcast to add a bit more knowledge to it. And today I'm going to be running through the predictions we've gone for Royal Rumble. If you want to let us know what you think in the comments, please, I'll happily read them. We'll probably mention a few on Tuesday. If anyone has got any major shocking predictions, possibly shock entrances, anything. Right, let's go into our first match. Sheamus versus Shorty G. Now, I do think this is one of the easiest matches to predict. Shorty G, obviously, formerly Chad Gable, former Olympic wrestler, yet he's being booked as a small man who's supposed to be standing up for everything. And obviously, we all know Sheamus, the big Irish brew, the Celtic warrior. I think this is quite a given. I think we've all gone for Sheamus. Yeah, we have. I've gone for Sheamus. Both Kieran's have, and Simon have both gone for Sheamus. Quite easy picks. They wouldn't book him to lose on his first retaining pay-per-view. Now, on to the second match. This is Andrade versus Humberto Carrillo. We saw on Monday Night Raw, after the ladder match, Humberto Carrillo was in the crowd with the mask on. Not really a big shock, because it looked very like Humberto Carrillo, but he challenged him, so this is a match we've got. I mean, just going on to Monday Night Raw, that match was absolutely incredible, the ladder match, and I think this is where a lot of the predictions, we have all also gone for Andrade again. With adding Selena Vega to the mix, we've seen in most recent weeks that she's a thorn in the side of anyone who goes against Andrade. So, yep, again, simple, quick picks. Andrade. So when we get late into the card where it's a bit controversial. And speaking of controversial, the Falls Count Anywhere match between Roman Reigns and King Corbin. This feud feels like it's been going on for ages. We all thought it was going to end on that SmackDown where Reigns beat him the week after the whole dog food incident. But it's going again. It's been given a Falls Count Anywhere match, which is a bit controversial considering maybe people are saying the Fiend match, which we'll get into later, is a strap match. Maybe them two should be stripped. We don't want them stripped, we want them swapped. If we swap them around, it's like a dog whip match. And Falls Count Anywhere, the Fiend, it can be anywhere. That's what it should be. But back to Roman King Corbin. I have gone for Roman. I think this is where you end the feud. You could go Corbin in fairness, because that's what Kieran D's gone with. He's gone with King Corbin. It's a bold prediction because Roman is your biggest guy now, and he's becoming the face that we loved just after the Shield broke up. So, I mean, I could see a Corbin win here. Everyone else, Kieran and Simon, have also gone for Roman. But a lot of people's picks also tie into the final Rumble match. But speaking of the next match, we have got Bayley versus Lacey Evans. Again, a feud that's been a bit strange. Obviously, we had Lacey, who was the dangerous, heel, the one who was disrespecting the crowd. She was this all-American woman. She was she's a former army soldier. I think was she a Marine or something like that. But this story's just become Bayley doesn't like your kid. The kid's going, dang you, Bayley. But it's a nothing feud. But it is for the title. And that could add some bit. They might want to do a shocking switch. Maybe Sasha Banks comes out and costs Bayley. And then you've got Bayley, Sasha Banks as your probably third women's match at Mania. Unfortunately, I think if Lacey was to win the title, I don't think she would be on the main card. As, to be honest, she doesn't have enough pulling power for it. But I've gone for Bayley. Kieran L has gone for Bayley. Shockingly, Kieran D has actually gone for Lacey. And Simon has gone for Bayley. This will be actually quite an interesting match because I think that will landscape the SmackDown's women's division quite a lot. Because if you're losing Bayley to a Sasha feud, who does Lacey actually go against? You've only got Mandy and Sonya. They're already involved in a tag team. You've got Alexa and Nikki, again a tag team. I would like to see maybe a Nikki Cross Lacey feud where Nikki goes on to win the title, maybe with the help of Alexa, then tensions can build, and then you've got Alexa versus Nikki probably going into a would-be Rumble. Not Rumble, Money in the Bank. But obviously, can sow the seeds at Rumble, maybe in the Women's Rumble match. Going on to now, I think, the one that's got the most, not attention, but build up to, and that's been Becky versus Asuka. Obviously, last year we had that incredible match in the 2019 Royal Rumble, where I think Becky won, but it was such a great, one of my favourite matches of last year. The tension obviously led up to the Becky entering the Rumble as well. No, Asuka won that, and then obviously it led to Becky into the Rumble. I have gone for Becky, and so all of we. I think Asuka is obviously the women's tag champ, and obviously with Kairi Sane just returning last week to a losing effort to Becky. You've got to go with Becky. She's still a hot property even a year later. And I think this is the reason why a lot of people have gone obviously to feed into the women's Rumble match. The only way they can do it is possibly Asuka beats her, so she's the women's tag champ and the Raw champ, and then Kairi Sane gets jealous because obviously WrestleMania 36 is happening in Tampa Bay. We obviously know it's happening in the big stadium with the big pirate ship in. If you are going to pull the trigger to make Kairi Sane a face, I think this is when you do it. Make Asuka win the title, make them so they're a bit friendly, then one day Kairi Sane just snaps, attacks Asuka, but it's got validity, if that's a word. Right, and now we will go on to, again, a match which feels like it's been going on for ages, a feud. It's The Fiend versus Daniel Bryan in a strap match. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this should be a false count anyway. The Fiend has got his Firefly Funhouse. It's spooky. Bryan got pulled under the ring. He shaved his head and everything. It doesn't have that shock value. Like, if The Fiend wins, we're like, of course, I think we expect it. If Bryan wins, we're like, it's not really much of a shock because Bryan is going to be built up again. We know it. But saying that, I've gone for The Fiend. Kieran L's gone for The Fiend. Simon's gone for The Fiend. But again, Kieran Dillon going for that underdog pick. We're going with Daniel Bryan. This will be, I think, a fun match because if they integrate the spookiness of the Fiend character, like, I would love if the Fiend just didn't show up. They've announced it as the Fiend, but sort of the Mr. Rogers Bray Wyatt comes out and sort of says, I'm not fighting you, Bryan. We've got no beef. And then slowly through this strap match, he has to agree. Bryan's doing it, and you slowly see this lovely TV host turn to the Fiend, and he maybe goes under the ring and the Fiend appears. I think it'll be tough to do, but I mean, this could be like a shocking match of the night, like a low sleep. Obviously, you got your Andrade Humberto, which will be a high, fast-paced action. But I think this could be for storyline terms, because you could have the Miz interfere. Then you've got maybe your WrestleMania feud of the Fiend, Bryan, and Miz. It will be interesting. And now on to probably the second most anticipated match of the thing. It is the Women's Rumble. So what I'll do is I will run through the picks individually and sort of explain why people have gone for them. So I'll start with mine first. I've gone for obviously the woman that is on the centre of your screen, Charlotte Flair. She has been one of the strongest booked women on this roster. From so many title wins to not many losses in her main roster career. And for someone who in NXT really wasn't your Baileys, your Sashas, even your Paiges. She was someone like, oh yeah, that's Ric Flair's daughter, she's pretty decent. But since coming to the main roster, her stock has just elevated. I don't have a reason for going for Charlotte, to be honest with you. You obviously have got your other candidates like your Shaynas, your Rondas. I'd just like to see someone who either is not going to be part-time like a Ronda. And as much as I like Shayna, I'd rather her interfere with the Horsewomen like how she should be doing. She's that heel that you just want to hate. And I think if she wins the Rumble, you go, yes, she won the Rumble. But if she interferes in a Mania match or a setup match, I'm guessing Elimination Chamber will be coming up. So I think maybe that's how you integrate Shayna in. But I would love to see Charlotte Rumble win. She's been great over the past years. And it'd be nice to see her actually rewarded. Kieran has obviously gone for Shayna. She's already got beef with Becky. We know from the Survivor Series match where Becky couldn't beat her, Shayna actually beat Bayley. Kieran does think this is going to lead to a Ronda Rousey future match where Shayna wins, she wins the title. She wins the Rumble. She may get the title in the future off Becky if Becky wins. This sort of can tease a Shayna Ronda match. Even though they're the 4 horsewomen, this will be probably the biggest women's match ever. You've got a woman who has transitioned into wrestling so well, who was never known as the most known MMA fighter. She had a couple of fights in the UFC, but was never, that's Shayna Baszler, she's Ronda Rousey level. But since coming to NXT, she's probably produced some of the best matches of the women's division of practically all time, bar the famous Iron Woman match. The problem with this pick is Ronda is on the impregnation vacation, as she very funnily likes to call it. If she still wants a child, will she want to come back and fight Shayna and do this again and then just prolong it? Or will she want the child, come back maybe in 2 years, a year later, when she's fit and ready, and she can go for longer without having to have these intermittent breaks? Kieran D has also gone for Ronda Rousey this time, and sort of for the way that Kieran's gone for Shayna, he's done it for, he wants a Lynch Shayna Ronda match. So last year he had Charlotte Ronda Lynch. He just wants Charlotte out, Shayna in, which I think that match has condensed to be match of the year. The problem is, how do you work the Ronda Shayna 4 horsewomen? Will they hate each other? Will they like each other? Just let us know in the comments what you think. And obviously Simon has gone for Shayna this time, with Shayna obviously pinning Bayley at Survivor Series, and sort of Becky will want revenge, like, you took my win away from me. So again, Women's Rumble is, not many people have been announced. Obviously seen the screen, we've got Alexa Bliss, Natalya, Charlotte, Nikki Cross and Sarah Logan. You will have, so you'll probably have Becky in there, Carrie in there, Asuka in there. You've still got nearly 22 other women wrestlers, Shayna, Ronda possibly, that's still 20 others. I think that is the problem with the women's division currently. There isn't as many, you can say, they're going to win it because they might be an entrance, like Amanda Rose, as much because she's in the love angle with Otis. Sonya Deville, again, she's tied in with the Mandy thing, and if she won, I think people would be like, oh great, another wasted thing. Like last year when Sarah Logan had that incredible performance, and then they just got rid of her like it didn't mean anything. Like, why don't you keep her to the final 2? Because now she's come back and she's been jobbing out to Charlotte, where Charlotte doesn't need it. We all know. Look at the name. Whereas Sarah Logan could use it. We could see possibly a return of maybe a Ruby Riott. I think Liv Morgan will possibly in the match. The problem with Morgan is you're going to have Lana, that feud will cross over into the match. And really talk about shock entrances, I don't think there is any shocks where it's like, oh my god. Like, we've seen previously, like, Kelly returning, Eve returning, Beth Phoenix, Molly Holly. I don't think we'll get that obviously this year, but I don't think it'll be like, oh my god, it's them. I think the only major shock we could see is maybe Shotzi Blackheart, who's had Shayna's number in the Battle Royale. Obviously the week later she did lose on NXT, but Shotzi Blackheart, Mercedes Martinez, who's obviously recently signed for NXT, she is a fierce woman. I think she genuinely is scarier than Shayna. She's another. Then you've got your Candice LeRae's, probably Kacy Catanzaro will be in there. Rhea Ripley maybe because she's the champion. You'll get a few NXT UKs, but that still leaves maybe 5 people who we don't know who it will be, and I think that is the problem with the women's division currently. But let us know who your pick is and why. Why I think so. I want to know why, because it's going to be a feud that will go on for nearly 3 months. And finally, going to the big daddy of them all, I think everyone's favourite, a wrestler's favourite pay-per-view, probably behind Mania. It's the Men's Rumble match. And the problem with the men's is we don't know who will win. There is obviously the out-and-out favourite of Roman Reigns. I think the bookies have got him as the favourite. And then you've got Cain Velasquez and Tyson Fury up there to win it. Now, I don't think they will win it, Cain or Tyson Fury, just because I don't think they will be able to do an hour and 20-minute match. So if they were going to be entered, they'll enter when Brock is. And obviously Brock is in first. What I do think will happen will be, well, I'll go through my prediction. I really want Kevin Owens or Samoa Joe. 2 people who have really captivated me since they came into NXT and then WWE. Sort of, I start watching around WrestleMania 30, so it was probably when Bray Wyatt was in the main roster. So I watched main roster content for nearly 2 years, and then I started watching NXT, and I was seeing Kevin Owens and Rowan. I was like, these are bigger guys, and they're still being completely athletic, and I'd really like to see it, because who would they go for? Would they go for Fiend? I'd like to see something with Joe Fiend again, a battle of sort of the big chunky guys, same with Kevin Owens. But unfortunately, I'm going to go with Seth Rollins, which is, no one's actually gone for Seth, which I think is a shock, because if you look how he's been built most recent weeks, he's got the AOP on his side, and recently he's just practically signed Murphy and becoming the tag champs. There's no one hotter than Seth currently, and I think if you look at the stats, the Messiah of Monday Night Raw could do it. It would be back-to-back Rumbles, which is unlikely to see, but we know how much they like Seth. The problem is, who would he go? You could have Brock, same match as last year, and I think they're too invested in a Cain Velasquez-Tyson Fury feud. So he would have to go for Fiend, which means switching brands, which means he probably wouldn't be allowed the tag team titles anymore. And if he stays on Raw with the titles, you're just going to get complicated again, like when the stupid rule where, they can have 3 people on Raw from SmackDown, and that eventually came off. There's 7 people from SmackDown on Raw. Roman's on all the shows. Speaking of Roman, that's who Simon and Kieren Dillon have gone for. Kieren Dillon has gone for it to set up a feud with... who's he gone for? He has gone through. It's to set up a feud with actually The Fiend, who he wants, which... and same with Simon, that's what he's gone for as well. Like, The Fiend is the most popular, is the most over wrestler in the company now. But Roman is slowly becoming that top babyface. He isn't as hated as he was in 2015, so you could have him main event. Do you want him main event against your hottest property of The Fiend? Is it if Roman loses? Stock drops down again. We talk about stock a lot in WWE, but it really matters. We saw it last year with Shinsuke, getting into the feud where him and AJ Styles just hit each other in the cock. And I think Shinsuke Nakamura is one of the best New Japan wrestlers ever. Yet he's been subjected to this after winning was the Rumble and Mania. And I feel like that's the problem. If Roman wins, we could get the Suffering Succotash line again. But he is the odds-on-out favourite. And I think the most shocking prediction from this, and the final prediction, well, it's not the final, but it's Kieran, who has gone for Aleister Black. And his reason was because him versus Fiend would be a spooky dude match. The problem is, obviously, Black would have to transition to SmackDown. I don't think that would make a massive difference, but we know Paul Heyman is very hot on Black. So would he say, yes, you can go over there and have this feud and be booked by someone else? No, I don't think he will. But a Black Fiend match would be incredible, because it really is a battle of the characters. Probably the only 2 characters who have been sort of vilified in the main roster of, this is Aleister Black, he's gothy, his entrance is really cool, he stands up, he gets like lifted up. The Fiend, the best character, he's got the lantern mask of his head, he's got these double split personalities, but there seems to be a clear difference. That could be, if Aleister Black wins it, I think Kieran deserves £1 million, because it is an out-and-out their pick. But finally, we have gone for, like, do you know the famous moment in Rumble where there's 4 people standing off? I've gone for we've gone for a marathon man. I think last year, was it Styles? There is always a marathon man. Sometimes it's Ziggler, obviously Chris Jericho, who is obviously AEW now, has the record for the longest time spent in a match. So I've gone for my final 4. I've gone for Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Buddy Murphy. I'd love Joe to come in maybe at a lucky number 27, 28, so he doesn't have to do super much wrestling, but he's that scary guy there who could choke you out and then just throw you over. Seth, obviously, he's my prediction. Again, he could be your marathon man if I didn't go for who I went with. I've gone for Roman because odds and out favourite, you've got to add him there. But I've actually gone for Murphy here. He's just become the tag team champion. It's rumoured that Vince McMahon quite likes him a lot. That's why he's put him with Seth. He could tease a thing where it's like Seth and Murphy go after Joe and Roman. Joe and Roman, the Samoan connection a little bit. And then maybe Murphy eliminates Joe, sort of a shock. Roman eliminates Murphy. Seth, Roman form a Shield face off. And then whoever you'd want to win. I've gone for Murphy for the marathon man. I feel like you'll have your Brocks, your Kane, your Tysons, and maybe Buddy Murphy, maybe R-Truth at 4th as the joke. Then at 5th, Buddy Murphy come in, and he does all the hard work for Seth. AOP are either on the outside or some of them, they're in the ring, really laying the ring out. And then Seth Rollins' music hits, and he comes out, sort of rules the ring and wins. What I love a prediction for is, we obviously know Brock's number 1. The number 2 is going to shock. It could be Kane thing. I saw a thing online where it was, you hear the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun, and it's Cult of Personality music. Crowd goes absolutely mental, and Seth Rollins walks out. We know he's got the smuggest smile. He's the messiah of Monday Night Raw now. And imagine if he came out to the CM Punk theme tune. There'd be incredible backlash, make him your top heel in your business, in your company, and everyone hate. And if CM Punk does decide, it's a match already ready in waiting. Kieren has gone for Keith Lee. Everyone loves Keith Lee. You can't forget about him. He's gone for Rowan. He's gone for Aleister Black, and he's gone for Seth in the match again. Keith Lee is a guy who everyone is sorting out recently in the North American Championship from Roddy Strong. Will he win it? I don't think so. Well, obviously there are 10 NXT wrestlers in, which is big because they can obviously go choose Adam Cole. Will Vince want the NXT title to be the main focus of his, probably the main event? I don't think so. That's why I didn't pick a Keith Lee. It's a great shout for him to be in the Final 4. We know he's loved. We're obviously going to see some fun eliminations. Maybe Kalisto comes in and he does this where he pushes him off, what he did to Adam Cole into the crowd. His Marathon Man's gone for Ricochet. Again, your Marathon Man's are normal people who never make it to the Final 4, but have incredible thing. Like, he's gone for Ricochet. We know how athletic he is. We'll probably see some stupid stunt. Kieran D has gone for Keith Lee again. Roman, he's actually gone for Drew. I think he's been asleep here. I probably should have gone for him. He's been booked really strong. Apart from last week where he got pinned to the RKO from Orton, but he was still up at the after when Orton left the ring, and he was shouting him saying, "I'm gonna beat you with the Rumble. I'll throw you over that top rope." And if there's anyone who can produce that shock, who has sort of rejuvenated his career, obviously he left when he was part of 3MB, came back as Drew Galloway. I remember watching WCPW with him, and I thought, is that Drew McIntyre? I remember him as the guy with one of the best themes of Broken Dreams. But I remember this guy who was in joke matches, and now he's legitimately killing people, basically. So he could be winning. He's also gone for AJ Styles, who again, because there's so many wrestlers in this company, AJ Styles is a guy who has been on the top of his game for nearly 20 years, yet no one's saying, oh, he can win the Rumble. And it's because it's the way people have been booked. AJ's been in a feud with sort of him and the OC versus a plethora of superstars, and I think if they were going to do it, they'd have him have a rival with someone that could go down to the final 2. His Marathon Man is Rey Mysterio. Again, another man, a legacy career, who we know is still athletic even at the age of 73. Rey Mysterio probably is. We can't see him underneath the mask. Do I see him being the Marathon Man? No, because I think he's a bit too old, and I do hope they choose someone slightly younger in their career. But it's another shout. And then Simon has gone for Roman, Drew, Lee. And quite a shocking one, he's gone for Cain Velasquez. So I don't know whether he obviously hasn't gone for a Velasquez win, but maybe Brock survives for... Imagine if Brock stays in for nearly the whole 30, and then Velasquez comes out and throws him out immediately. That would be a very short. Obviously, he's gone for Velasquez as the Final 4, and he's gone for his Marathon Man as Buddy Murphy. I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view. I think everyone's looking forward to it. Obviously, we know the Rumble's one of the best pay-per-views, but it could be... I think it's going to be one of the best Rumbles ever, just because we don't know who's winning. The shock of Brock at number 1. We'll probably get some nice little comedy moments. I don't think from R-Truth, because they set it up in Raw, but maybe Drake Maverick comes out, does your sort of typical hornswoggle underneath the ring. It's a waiting game. So in it, and eventually we're going to get the winner, and that will really help with the podcast, which obviously is on a Tuesday. We don't have a name for it yet, so if you've got a name, please let us know below in the comments. Like, subscribe as well, because it will be helpful to sort of progress this channel. We're going to have more content every week. We've got Sports Day on Friday, deciding to talk about other sports. You've got your tennis, your F1, your rugby, probably MMA as well. You've got your Top Corner podcast on the Wednesday with what we all love. You've got your quiz on there, you've got your weekly roundup, you've got your nice little debate section. On Monday, there probably won't, maybe a bite-sized 10-minute episode where it's all about the debating. I think we're going to talk about the FA Cup rule, so you'll have that alongside your Team of the Week predictions. And then that's really on the Saturdays. You'll probably have some more football content because Saturdays are the football days. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you at the Rumble. Goodbye.